So today we have Terrence Izzard, who's talking to us from Tennessee. Terrence is Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management and Student Success at Tennessee State University. You can actually see the pin he's wearing. Tennessee State is one of the largest HBCU, historically Black college and university in Tennessee area. And Terrence, we are really lucky to have you today. Thank you very much for coming in, giving your time for this conversation.
Thanks for inviting me. We really are happy to be a partner with you.
Absolutely. So Terrence, let's just dive right into it. COVID-19, this pandemic has totally upended the whole education system, especially college ecosystem. Now that campuses are empty, classes are virtual, probably you and your team are trying to figure out how to get students to final decision and enrollment. So we want to look forward, trying to understand what recruitment landscape will look like for the fall 2021 cycle. From today till September 1st, 2021, when students come in and take the seat in your classroom. So with that context, let me first start with, what do you think colleges and universities were least prepared for in tackling this pandemic?
For thinking from my 22 years of experience, how we traditionally approach this recruitment cycle and how, students engage with or interface with our recruitment opportunities. I think most colleges were really not thinking about the digital or virtual landscape as a priority in terms of the tool to reach students. So I think it really caused us to be forced into that space as the only opportunity to connect with students versus it being an option. So now it's not just an option, it's the only way that we can interact. So that was one thing. But I think the other thing that a lot of my colleagues have expressed, and we too here at Tennessee State have actually had to really rethink how we work in a mobile landscape and in a alternative landscape. We're not all in the same room now. We've always done regional recruiting, and we've also, had to communicate while traveling. So being in that mobile space has not really been a foreign thing. But when your entire team of 25 to 30 people are all in different locations, how do you create a sense of community and consistency? So I think those two things are the two biggest challenges that most universities are facing now.
Yeah, very well put, Terrence. And that is what we hear from other colleges as well, that they did not expect that digital will be the only way to communicate with your community of students, parents, staff, even employees, all of that. So that's a good segue into my next question. Like you said, most colleges and universities have been forced to provide online classes. Everything is digital. So do you see this as flight to digital world as temporary or more permanent? And then I have follow-on question on how do you think this digital evolution will help or hinder your recruitment and admissions efforts?
Well, to the first question, I really don't think it's temporary. I think most universities are already in the online space, and many have a global education strategy that it's already reaching, international communities and providing the education to students via online curriculums. I just think that this will be something that universities will, again, have to determine how much investment they're going to make moving forward. Right now, with the pandemic, it's definitely something that had to be addressed immediately. But when things settle back down and we come back to whatever normal looks like in the future, universities will be faced with making that decision of, do we put all of our resources in the online space? Do we do 50%? Is it going to be 75 and 25? And I think those are the conversations that are happening now. And then the second part of that question, I think students really have been forced to embrace the new learning styles, and I think that may be a challenge for some students. And I think universities are having to take a look at how do we provide support for those students who may or may not be comfortable in this space.
Yeah, and very well said, because students also look for that experience on the campus when they are going for higher education. So it's that camaraderie that they build with their peer group and with their faculty members. So definitely there's going to be a balance that they will have to draw between online and offline in-person classes. Specific to recruitment and admissions, now even before COVID, students were spending 3.5 hours per day on social media or online on the screen. So digital was already getting into the recruitment and admission space, but I'm wondering how COVID has accelerated that, and how do you see the new tools, new strategies, new processes coming into your role and your team's functions on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, well, I want to mention something that it's also important in this whole factor. Most faculty come from a different generation, and I think there's a generational divide. So whereas students are spending 3 to 5 hours already there, and they are, having to expand that, now learning online, you still have another generation who, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that, they were just kind of getting their toes wet with it. And so it created a challenge, an opportunity really for our faculty to kind of say, hey, let's have this conversation. Are we comfortable being in this space? And if not, what supports do we need to have for you to create the best scenario for the student? So that's another interesting conversation. And I think that really has to be kind of fleshed out more as well for universities going forward. But to your other point, in terms of recruitment, it really has accelerated in my experience at Tennessee State. It really has accelerated our short range and long range plans for the digital space. And then I think in general, I think it's been a conversation amongst my colleagues and my peers about recruiting online. I think there are two different mindsets. Some people really kind of looked at that digital space as it's not like being in person. There's nothing like being in person. And it's like you're cheating the student or you're robbing the student from an authentic experience. But I feel that students and this generation of, students that are, actually on the horizon, they feel very connected in the online space, just like you and I are talking now. Yeah. It's very comfortable, and it's, most of our students now prefer to text and FaceTime, video chat versus actually, talking on the phone or even making a trip. So I think it's a generational thing. And I think that teams now across the higher ed are having to really reassess how students value digital communication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And it's funny that one time I saw this meme. It's like somebody's making fun of another person. Look, they are using phone to make a call. That was surprising to this younger generation. For them, it's all about texting. So I hear you.
For sure. And one of the things, when you think about it, we're now dealing with a generation who has never really heard a dial tone. You know how we used to pick up our phone, you hear a dial tone. What is a dial tone? So it's just different now. And I think we have to really be willing to embrace the student-centric approach to recruiting, like going to where they are, valuing what they value, and really provide access to tools that will give them opportunities to engage with the people that they want to engage with.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of the foundational component here. For related to COVID, it has been said, welcome to the new normal with regards to the life we will be living in. And the new normal is going to be very different than the normal we were used to. What do you see new normal for college recruitment and admissions in terms of goals, metrics, enrollment numbers? Just to give you an idea, Cirkled In conducted a couple of surveys. One of them was for high school students, and we asked them, how do you see COVID impacting your college going plan? And 69% students said that they will have financial hardships, and 22% students said that they are rethinking their college plan. And that sentiment is all over the industry everywhere. So how are universities like TSU adjusting your metrics, your goals, how are you going to take care of, like, with the declining number of students, but you have similar expenses, but less revenue now, probably?
Well, we're certainly at the executive level planning for and addressing those issues. The primary thing is in the HBCU space, our population has always had financial challenge. We've always had to go beyond the call of duty to find resources and provide resources for our students. So that part is not new for us. Just population, it's a different scenario. Most, not that all of the students that we're at Tennessee State, we are one of the most diverse HBCUs in the country. So our population, you'll find it's a good mix of students and backgrounds from different ethnic communities. But as a whole, I would say really preparing to support students with more financial resources or connect them with more financial resources. So our financial aid units, our scholarships units, our TSU Foundation, really kind of putting together a different approach to supporting students financially. So that's one thing that we have really been talking about and creating an action plan to expand those supports. And then the other thing is really rethinking our curriculum strategy, because where students may still want the traditional 4-year on-ground experience to get that degree and the leadership and the culture that we provide and the skills, that come from an internship and mentoring. There may be students who are now more interested in specific line of work and certifications that may only take 2 years versus 4 years, or 18 months versus a full associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. So really rethinking our programs that we offer to remain competitive.
That's a good point, actually. We are seeing similar sentiments where a lot more students are saying, maybe I go to trade school, maybe I go to 2-year college and then go to 4-year a little later. Because as we know, as of last week, there were 22 million US people are filing for unemployment. So all these parents who have younger kids, their college going plan are going to be impacted. Absolutely.
Also, we're seeing a lot of parents and adult learners who are coming back to school because of this new adjustment, who are concerned about their future employment.
Yeah, recession actually always brings adult learners back to school. I went to do my MBA in 2008 when we had the biggest recession. So yes, I'm fully experienced with that. The other trend that is just taking shape as of last week, really leapfrogged into the new area, is SAT, ACT. So College Board came out and canceled the June SAT as well, which was after canceling March, and all those. ACT is still not canceled, but it's looking like it may get canceled. So millions of students are impacted. They are not going to be able to take these tests. And in response, a lot of colleges and universities have made tests optional. At TSU, is that optional at this point? And secondly, do you think this trend will continue, or it'll go away in 2 years and universities will go back to the test requirements?
Well, we do know that the standardized test has been a benchmark for universities to really find those students who perform well and give them those opportunities to come into the university. So, but in respect to it being a trend for now and going away 2 years, I really think that this will be a proving ground. There are some of us in this enrollment management space to really think that students should not be measured by just an ACT or SAT score. And then there's another thought that's to the contrary. So I think this opportunity gives us a chance and gives students a chance to really prove the point. We're going to be watching, although, to answer your question more directly, we have made a revision to our policy, our admissions policy this year because of the ACT and SAT test dates being adjusted, not to penalize the student for that. And we're going to permit students who meet our other benchmarks for admission to have access. A portion of our students will be able to benefit from that. However, we do have a placement test that they will receive once they get to the fall semester for their orientation. So we'll do another placement test to get them in the appropriate classes. But we will also make sure we're providing those supports to make sure that they're successful academically as well. But overall, we want to see if there is a difference in student performance now that we've waived that fee right now. So we're exploring that. I do think that after this year or next year, we'll have some data that will then allow us to make a determination how high on the bar those test scores are as it relates in respect to admissions for the university.
Yes, and you're right on, Terrence, because there is a nonprofit called fairtest.org. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they have been a huge proponent of looking at students holistically and making tests optional. Even before COVID, there were 1,100 colleges, which is almost a quarter, have made SAT, ACT optional. So what COVID has done in last 3 weeks, I think 20 plus universities have made it all optional, including UC system, which just last December said, no, we are not going to do that. So the trend definitely is changing. And I think this opportunity is giving that trial period that industry needs. And let's see what happens. Let's see how our students perform better or worse. And definitely that will be the, proof is in the pudding. So definitely looking forward to next 2 years.
Yeah, and I think, when we take a step back, what is the ultimate goal? Like, why did they ever put that in the mix? I think, what universities really want is for students to succeed, academically, and student success is the goal. And so that the standardized test, has been used as a measure. I've kind of evolved on it as well. I was initially one of the ones that really felt like, hey, you don't want to put a student in a course, or you don't want to admit them to the university and they're not going to succeed. You want them to actually be prepared. And but after being in higher ed for so long, I'm going on my 24th year now, and I've seen students who may have not done, they've gotten a 19 or a 20 on the ACT, but they've gotten that opportunity to come to a university, and I've seen them excel to be honor students. So it's in, it's in that student's drive and desire to perform and be successful. And then also it's in the university's commitment to providing those resources to support the students they're matriculating. The goal is to get them to graduate. So whatever the best route is.
Yeah, so we are talking a lot of support being given to students, whether it's financial aid, whether it's, hey, SAT, ACT optional. So here are some resources. What do you think will be the financial impact of COVID on higher ed industry? So of course, it's widespread all over the country, even world actually. So it's truly pandemic from that sense. Like we talked about, 22 million people in US have filed for unemployment. How many, it's just all over the place. And we have not even taken a U-turn, like we say. So my question is, how do you see colleges and universities responding to this increased impact on financials, whether it's financial aid, whether it's additional services, additional reach out, additional staff to support these students? How do you think colleges and universities will react to that and be ready with those services for students?
Yeah, I think it's going to require Uh, Another strategic plan. I think just moving to the online space. We immediately had to hire an additional team to support online learning, not just for students but also for faculty. So that was an additional expense that was not really there before. In addition to that, families have been affected. People have lost their jobs. So the availability of funds for families to pay for school, it's now a challenge. So again, to that financial aid point that we were talking about earlier. And then overall, as the number of students who have graduated from high school decreases, nationally we're seeing that trend. We're having to see how we as colleges and universities can really operate, really carry on a lean operation. Where can we cut costs to keep costs down for students? And then, with the online space, it does provide an opportunity to reach more students with less cost as well. So there are all kind of formulas that we're kind of exploring to really kind of meet that demand that's going to, be facing us as we move forward.
Yeah, perfect. I think that is what I call silver lining in this dark cloud. If, of course, it's a dark cloud, but I think one of the silver lining is how it has leapfrogged the whole education ecosystem into 21st century. And it is cheaper. It's cheaper to do reach students online versus having 10 of your staff members traveling all over the country. You can still do that, but you can reduce the scale and reduce cost. So it'll be interesting to see how the things unfold in next year to two as you are building your fall 2021 class. Of course, 2020 is very much up in the air. Like, we don't even know if colleges will even open in fall. But for 2021, looking forward, when do you think you are going to say, okay, let's just focus on fall 2021 class and let's start our recruitment efforts and start reaching out to these students and start building that cohort and that class that definitely will come in person on your campus in fall 2021?
Yeah, so let me answer that in two parts. For the last 2.5 months, other VPs and other enrollment management professionals, we have really just been really talking amongst ourselves to really support each other and make it through this, and so I haven't really heard a lot about flipping and turning the calendar over to 2021. But at TSU, we've had students who are juniors now already ready to complete their application for 21. And so we've already begun those conversations. We're already in the virtual space holding virtual recruitment fairs for high school juniors. We've shored up our network of counselors to really kind of talk to them about creating an audience and a space for us to really share with their juniors now. So we're kind of doing dual duty because everything has happened so fast. And usually what we're doing this time of year, we're spending time with the juniors who are getting ready to come into the funnel. Mm-hmm. So now that we're virtual, we're able to kind of do some population segmentation within the school districts that we work and really kind of create opportunities for juniors now. Mm-hmm. So we haven't officially said, shifted the gear into 21 mode yet, but since we're in this virtual space and we have access, we're kind of doing double duty as we're closing out this cycle.
Yeah, and virtual gives you that flexibility, fortunately. Like, you can really segment your audience and have very targeted messaging, very targeted services you are providing, talking about that and stuff like that. Digital has its own benefits, to say the least. So yeah, that is all I had to ask you, Terrence. Do you have anything else you would like to add? Something that you think is critical I have not asked you?
Well, I just want to make a statement. I think innovation is the key at this point for all of us. Public-private partnerships are key. And I think as it relates to being a tech company, partnering in the education space, I think that it's one of the most perfect marriages that one can have. And I just so appreciate the forward thinking of the team, you and the team at Cirkled In, and your commitment to providing an audience for students to gather and find community, and then also to connect with professionals like that, here at TSU. So I really think the stage has been set to really leave your fingerprint in this space in higher ed. So I congratulate you on all of your work, and we're looking forward to expanding our reach through your platform.
Oh, thank you, Terrence. Thank you for those very kind words. Really appreciate that. So thank you for your time and for sharing the insights. And it's really interesting. We are very lucky to have you on this podcast, and just getting the information, which is like more like inside intel, we call sometimes. So thank you very much. And we look forward to working with TSU and your team.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.